Well, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And boy, didn't we have some results at the weekend. We had some nice upsets in New Zealand and in South Africa. The away teams really had a field day this weekend. And joining me to go through all of the action is the one and only Mr. Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very good. Thank you, Paul. And once again, good evening to your subscribers out there. It's a privilege and a pleasure once again to be on the TDM talking Super Rugby.
So, talking of subscribers, that's exactly right. So down below, you can hit subscribe to make sure you to the channel, and hit the bell as well to make sure you don't miss out on any notifications as to what's going on, and then you can join us because you know what, we're here, or I'm here 8 p.m. most nights of the week. Mondays we do review the Super Rugby. On a Tuesday we have Hash Rugby Chat where we talk about all the sort of non-rugby stuff that's going on. Sorry, no, all the non-playing stuff that's going on in rugby. And then Thursday is where we preview all of the Super Rugby games for the following weekend. So you know what, just to keep it here. There's also post-match reactions as well going on. So it's all going off right here on the channel. We kicked off the weekend with the Highlanders versus Rebels. And as I say, an away win for the Rebels. I mean, where has this Rebels team been all season?
Well, you could arguably say not just the Rebels have come out from under out of the closet, but also the Brumbies the previous week. So, gee, if we can get one Australian side a week coming out and playing like this, listen, it makes for a much better competition. And I've got to say, whilst there was only 6 points in it, I think probably at the end of the day, that score may have even flattered the Highlanders, Paul. They were well worth their win.
Yeah, 22-8-28 to finish it up. But look, there were lots of opportunities for the Rebels in this game. Whereas if you look at the Highlanders, I think they had maybe 4 attacks, and in those 4 attacks they scored 2 tries in that first half. They could easily have been 40 odd points in that first half for the Rebels. Sure, they scored 3 tries, but they missed a bunch of other opportunities as well in there that they could have scored. I mean, let's say they're going to a point a minute for the first 20 minutes, having missed opportunities to score points. They were playing some really, really good rugby.
Oh, very, very much so. And I thought up front, Anarurangi, their hooker, pretty much set the tone. He was making a lot of carries, but what they were doing really, really well, they were just getting offloads into players that were hitting spaces, Paul, and they were getting in behind the Highlanders. And I think I can recall one where they scored a try, and straight away they went down the paddock by about 50 odd metres, and just a misdirected pass being the difference. And of course, I think having Matt Tumua back from the previous game against the Sharks, well, he was right on form. He looked every inch at international first 5.
Yep, no, absolutely. And indeed, say they were looking really good. They perhaps tried to play a bit too much themselves because it was when they were trying to play out their 22 that they gave up that the first try where McKay went in, and then we're looking at the and then. Yeah, so they didn't score in that sort of next 20 minutes. Really, really bad ankle break for Lenchies in there, which is really sad as well to see. I mean, he's out for the rest of the season now.
Oh, absolute shocker! Not just the result, but also the loss of their skipper Lenchies. I mean, as they talk about a double blow, Paul, and also just some of their discipline letting them down. Although just before I get onto that, listen, I do have a little bit of sympathy for the Highlanders. There were several times that the Rebels did go into the 22 and they gave away penalties, and the official just refused to basically relent and pull a yellow card out of his pocket. But on saying that, unfortunately for the Highlanders, there was a bit of ill discipline from both their wingers. You just can't touch guys in the air, and I think we saw that throughout the weekend as well. There was a game, I think maybe in the Blue Stormers game, where Mark Talia was binned for exactly the same thing, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some people who are saying that complaining about those. So yeah. So the Rebels got the first try in the second half, which basically put the game, which gave them a nice lead, and they kept it. But then we had obviously the misconversion was a big thing because that left it being more than 2 scores again, still rather than getting within a score. But those 3 yellows, right? Gregory, look, he got it all wrong. He took off. Which one of Gregory was one that took off too early or not?
Just got on both occasions. Both got their timing wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Really Gregory jumped way too early, got his timing wrong. And then if you touch the person in the air and they come down on their back, then it's a yellow. The second one where Nariki doesn't get up to challenge at all. He just runs through the space. If you run and you've got to at least get up to challenge the ball. He didn't do that. And people say, oh well, the Rebels player jumped into him. And then no, the Rebels. Dame Halopetty's got his eyes in the sky. He's jumping for the ball. He can't keep track of everyone who's on the ground. Therefore, if you're not going to get up for the ball, you've got to get out of there. Both very clear-cut yellow cards, and people on Twitter who are kicking off saying how it was all wrong. Sorry, folks, you just don't know the rules.
Yeah, Paul, I agree with you. I've got no issues if the 2 players are approximately in the same place early in the air, going for the ball at the same time. Listen, as long as one of them doesn't take each other out on the way down, to me, that's a fair contest. But I think once a player's in the air, you can't even go near him. You're better off just waiting until he hits the ground, then basically pretty much put him down in the tackle and try and get up over the ball and create a turnover. I just don't get it. On both occasions, Scott Gregory pretty much went from 0 to 0 after scoring a try that got the score back to 28-19. There's still something like 15 minutes to go. That's plenty of time, Paul. And in that time that they got that yellow card, admittedly not long after that, Billy Meeks got a yellow card, and I think that pretty much just came down to sort of...
That was just repeats. Repeat.
Yeah, that was pretty much a team card. But I think right at the end, once again, 28-22 with a couple of minutes to go. I know it's a last throw in the dice, but once again, Nariki again, and it's pretty much game over.
Yep. No, totally, absolutely. Congratulations. That's 2 Australian teams coming over to New Zealand and winning in consecutive weekends. Fantastic for the competition. Great to see the Australian side stepping up. So after that, we had the Waratahs versus the Lions. The Waratahs came out on this one 29-17, so relatively comfortable one in the end. They had a really great start to the Tars coming into this game, but then they got that yellow card and they lost a lot of momentum at that point, didn't they? It's one of those silly things where you've got everything going for you, and then you give up, you let your ill discipline take the wind out your sails.
Yeah, they're a sort of team. They kind of remind me of the Blues when the Blues aren't playing so well. They're a team that has got some potential, but they can't keep consistency in their game pool. They either stuff it up with a mistake, or like you say, just their discipline lets them down, and it must be also frustrating for Rob Penny. I always felt though, Paul, they were, once again, I thought it was like Big Brother playing Little Brother. I always thought they had them at arm's length, and I think 12 points at the end of the day was pretty comfortable.
It was, and I'm just bringing up just trying to bring up the stats now, because from memory, the tackling by the Lions was abysmal in this one. Not so bad actually. Sorry, wrong. Got the wrong stats up. But so from memory, plus also, I mean, the Tars, you need to sort your kicking out. I mean, they missed 3 penalties and 3 conversions. That's 15 points they left out on the pitch there, which as you say, suddenly that blows out to being a 44-17, which makes it a much more comfortable margin for the Tars than perhaps as you say, perhaps the scoreline really lets on. But as you're saying, sorry, I've got the correct stats up now. The Lions, 76% tackling. if you to 92 by the Waratahs. Yeah, the Waratahs basically kept the Lions under control, and even though the Lions had all the possession, all the territory, because they weren't bothering to tackle, it meant that the Tars could get the points on the board and win where it really mattered. Everything else, it looks pretty similar.
Well, very much so. I mean to say, in that Lions team, I always like the way that the lightweight open side flanker Schoeman always plays. He's a constant nuisance, always there or thereabouts around the ball. But gee, I think once again Hooper in a Waratahs team that's struggling, I think he's going pretty well. And I think the more time the youngster Harrison at 10 can get under the saddle, I've always liked the look of Gordon the halfback. Looks a really good, competent player, and once again, they have got some quality out back there with Kurtley Beale and Carmichael Hunt appears to be having a useful sort of season, Paul.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's taking so much flack. I was listening to the Green and Gold podcast as I drove home this evening, and one of them mentioned was they've got some problems. They've got problems at 2, 8. Then they mentioned 12, and I was thinking, really? No, I don't think they've got a problem at 12, really, particularly. Yet that pack lacks ball carriers, really, for them to punch over that gain line. They perhaps lack a bit of weight in the locking department, but yeah, no, I think they've got a good set of backs. They've got some good pieces, but there are perhaps one or two short that they need to just to make a team. For the Lions, I think we've been saying this now for about the season. They've just lost so much quality over the past 3 years, and losing that many players, it's unsurprising that they just don't have the cattle that they used to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I actually think they're probably in a phase where they are building. Obviously they lost their very good coach. Is it? Oh God, just escapes his name's gone to Gloucester.
Yep.
These days he was very good.
Ackerman.
Good for Ackerman, and I think he took his son with him as well,
Yep.
didn't he? Really hard to replace that sort of quality, and it might take them a couple of years. You can just see that they have got something in them, but unfortunately too young, a very young side, and pretty much in that rebuilding phase.
Yep. So we followed that one up with the Hurricanes versus the Sunwolves on Saturday at 4:45. There was no 7 p.m. kickoff in New Zealand, which there is every other Saturday, and every Saturday I've been here during regular season of Super Rugby. There's been an evening kickoff. For some reason this weekend there wasn't one, and I bet there was a whole bunch of people sitting out at 7 o'clock going, "Where's my rugby?" Bad scheduling, guys. And look, having the afternoon game is cool and good, having a game in the sunshine, but do it when you've also got a 7 o'clock game as well. Look, the Sunwolves came out in round 1, played some real fun rugby, looked like they really enjoyed themselves, put away the Rebels. Since then, they've just been changing their player, rotating their squad, the match day 23, over and over again. And having had very little pre-season, that's been a recipe for disaster. And we've seen them give up big losses to the Chiefs, Reds, and now to the Hurricanes. They were just never. They scored the opening try, the lovely inside ball to lead 0-7, but after that it was just one-way traffic, and it's hard to see how the Sunwolves are going to improve if they keep changing their team every week.
Yeah, totally agree, Paul, because they really at this moment literally are just making up numbers and probably are going to be the favourites to finish down the foot of the table, especially at this rate. What they conceded last week against the Reds. So last 2 games they've conceded over 120 points. Not a lot to write home, unfortunately, about the Sunwolves. Although in the case of the Hurricanes, I think you can only play what's in front of you, Paul, and that's exactly what the Hurricanes did. 28-10. At half time, I thought to myself, if they don't pull finger up, it will be a 50-pointer. But really, quite frankly, some of that defence in the second half was shocking. And like I said, it's not taking anything away from the Hurricanes. I mean, so they were very good out wide. They were potent. They were dangerous. Lamapi was in I mean, to say he's threatening enough, but when you've got all those other characters running around in the back line, and I don't even know if you could arguably say out wide this was maybe the Hurricanes' top 15.
No.
Good to see the boy Van Beek get a run on the wing there, but I don't think looking towards this weekend you'll find that Fletcher Smith he probably won't be the 10 this weekend, and I don't think Van Beek will be on that back line. Well, it's pretty close to the back line they'll put out against the Blues, but on saying that, hey, just too powerful, too pacey, and just too good.
Yeah, you got to say, congrats to Van Wyk. He looked good. He looked good for his hat trick. But we've got to temper that with the level of opposition that he was playing against. The other thing I like to see was Lamapi and Arso. Again, they just understand each other so well in that centre combination, and yet Arso seems to get given so few opportunities there. That's I find that disappointing. And let's be honest, at 33-10, I basically zoned out and didn't really. I mean, it was on. I was watching it, but I wasn't really paying attention by that stage. So I can't really say what happened at the end because, yeah, it was just all too. It was always one-way traffic there.
Yep.
We followed that up with a decent game between the Reds and the Sharks. I've got 60. No, I've got to put the wrong scoreline in here because I've got to put the Hurricanes scoreline in the Reds Sharks. I was about to read it out 62-15. I'm like, that was not the scoreline there at all.
No.
23-33. There we go. That's much more like it. And I'll be honest, I came into this one expecting this kind of scoreline. Sure, the Reds got the win the previous weekend against the Sunwolves. But listening to a lot of people on Twitter, they were like, wow, a bit surprised by the Sharks' performance here. Look, the Sharks have already won 2 out of their 3 games on tour. The only one they lost was when Kerwin Bosch was missing because of bereavement leave. This is a really strong Sharks side. They deserve to get the win.
I don't disagree, Paul, and they are such a good watch. Their outside backs. If they get half a chance, they're all basically steppers, and they will basically finish their opportunities well. And they're very well skippered by Lucanio the centre as well. I mean, to say there'd be a lot of people sort of shaking their heads, but boy, has that been an inspired choice to skipper? You'd have to say yes.
Yeah, it has. Hey, look, it was a bit disjointed at times. Let's be honest. I mean, both sets of teams defended really well, 86 and 94% tackling. So there was no problems there. So it was very difficult for either team to really get through phases. You've then got the Reds lost 2 scrums, the Sharks lost 3 scrums, the Sharks lost 2 lineouts, the Reds lost 3 lineouts. The set piece was a bit of a mess. And again, if you're losing your set piece and both sides are losing it, you're not going to get much continuity. At the end of the day, this came down to turnovers, and the Sharks' forwards work at the breakdown. 21 turnovers compared to 11. That's where the Sharks got this one. They turned it over and scored with, as you say, those electric backs, and that's what won the game.
And you talk about the scrum. There were a couple of real, critical scrums in around about the 56th and 61st minute, where basically the Sharks just did enough to dominate at scrum time. Kerwin Bosch, who's got a very good kicking percentage rate, just rocks up and just keeps extending it. And at 21-16, on about the 61st minute, then the Reds put on a bit of pressure, and it was just really a TMO, which looked like a kind of a double movement where the player sort of, but to me, he looked a bit short of the line, and they just didn't take that opportunity. And whilst they were attacking, it was indeed the skipper, Lucanio, who took the intercept, and I just felt at 28-16 that the game was pretty much gone, Paul. I mean, to say the Reds did well to hang in there. Something really weird. It's not often you see a 90-minute game of rugby, but you saw 10 minutes of extra time, which is pretty random. And I've got to say, it was pretty much deserved by the Reds. They tried hard throughout the game, but really, ultimately, I think the Sharks were always at arm's length ahead of them.
Yep, absolutely. But as Andre says in the live chat, Sharks doing the basics very well. nothing spectacular until the game gets really loose and their pace destroys cross-cover defences. Absolutely. They're really good. Now, I know you're a man who likes a flutter. So, folks, if you want to become even though we had a couple of upsets, or I would say upsets, we had the Rebels beating the Highlanders, and we're about to talk about the Blues and the Stormers. I still came out on top against the bookie this weekend. If you want to know how, head over to DrivingMaul.com and have a look at DrivingMaul versus the bookie, and you'll see how I did it this weekend. But yeah, we finished that up. We headed over to South Africa. Stormers versus the Blues. Let's be honest, Stormers unbeaten until this game. Massively solid on defence up until had been how they've kind of built their games. Come into this one, and suddenly they give up another 33 points and 79% tackling. Now, is that the Stormers having an off day, or the Blues really doing something to break those tackles?
Boy, Paul, that's a little bit of both, really. The crazy thing about it, before I get into those sort of stats, an area there's three areas we've always been concerned about the Blues, and that's the 9, 10, and 15 jersey. And ironically, all those three jerseys performed this weekend. That's the first point I'll basically make. But yeah, there was that train of thought that the Stormers, man, they could not have played any badly. They're all the things that they've been good at this stage were really bad. Their line out was awful. Their ball handling was terrible, Paul. And I just kind of wonder, at 20-0 down, all of a sudden, for the first time this year, they were forced to chase the game, Paul. So,
and that's not really their strength.
Might have been a bit of panic.
Yeah, that's not really their strength. Isn't chasing games. Their strength has been, as you say, defence, hold the other people out, strike back. Now, you say 4 lineouts lost. It was a bit of a mess. Was their lineout? The Blues just dominated and just increasingly dominated the possession and territory, giving the Stormers just no ability to come back into this game. So yeah, they played really well. They got some. I was a bit surprised to see Marchant, or as the South African commentators were saying, Marchand, out on the wing. But yeah, he got a couple of tries. And look, if that back line with TJ Faiani, Rico Ioane in 12-13, then got Talia and Marchant out in the out on the wings, you're basically playing 4 centres, or 4 players who can all play centre, which means you've got ball handling skills across all of them. You then put Perifeta at 15, who's also a ball handler as well. And that means you've always got people who can pass the ball in those turnover situations. And that's what's... that's definitely how I think Marchant's first score came about, was because, turnovers and just, all the players having good hands.
Oh, Paul, I was about to say, those 3 Blues tries were all the result of very good passing. The try that Marchant scored, or first try of Perifeta. Once again, some good passing, a good little bit of vision from Perifeta to find the gap when 2 tacklers sweated on the man out on the outside of him. Nice draw and pass. Then you saw the second try, great pass from TJ Faiani, great long pass to Papali, who scores in the corner. And once again, we saw some really slick stuff for Marchant, who, when he went in for his second try, to pick up a brace. So it was really, really good to watch. And there's a little bit of X factor in there in Talia. I know he picked up a yellow card, but boy, he's got some good footwork, and he's just owning one of those wings at the minute.
He has. And look, we up until the first 20 minutes, the Blues didn't make any mistakes. Then we had Rico dropping the ball. We had the yellow card. I can't remember exactly what time the card was, but the card was pretty soon afterwards from memory. And you've suddenly got a team that's, let's suppose, not massively high on confidence, have been dominating the game, suddenly make a couple of errors, but they didn't fall apart, and that was the big thing, is that they managed to keep it together and put pressure. Willems, to be fair, look, let's be honest, he had a poor day. He's a young fly half. He's going to have days where it goes wrong, and it did. And we had poor clearances, drop balls. He just looked nervous, and as you say, from that just not used to being under that pressure, that far behind on the scoreboard, and that told in the end. But the Blues, to go on tour, beat the Bulls the first time in a decade, beat the Stormers, the only unbeaten team in the competition. And this has been a fantastic tour for the Blues.
Oh, very, very much so. And whilst a week ago it was all done in the last minute, it looks like they've just pretty much built from there. But what I was impressed about, seven or eight guys all stood there, put their hand up. The three that we spoke about, but also Patrick. I thought Patrick Tuipulotu led the side very, very well, put in some big hits. Once again, Tom Robinson just goes from strength to strength. Got a crazy old engine.
And really good at the line out as well.
Yeah, really, really good option at the line out, and you can just see a little bit of growth in other areas. It's great to see them with a hooker. Eklund's still got a bit to do in terms of getting full accuracy with his line out. But boy, I love what he does around the paddock, Paul, and he gets you over the advantage line. He's a hooker with a little bit of footwork and. It was just great to see. When you got that many guys playing well, there's a good chance you're going to win games of footy.
It is, and it was also actually a lesson here in when you score your tries. Right, just before half time, the Stormers get themselves back 14-20. A try after the hooter, making it 14-27, and that changed momentum just before half time, where the opposition can't do anything about it. It means they go into the sheds, head down. Blues go in the sheds, heads up. And that made a massive difference. So yes, playing all the way to the hooter, which is good to see as well.
And Paul, I was going to say an area where the Blues have struggled this season, up until probably that Bulls game, has been with their goal kicking. I don't know what sort of success rate they're running at, but since Tere Black has come back into the team, he's just I think he kicked 100% off the tee on the weekend. Just a quick question for you. Just your thoughts on Sam Knock's game. I thought his service was really, really quite speedy, and maybe is this the time where the coaching staff stick with one halfback?
Well, they have been sticking with one halfback, and it's been Ruru until now. And this was probably Ruru's rest as part of the rotation, just like we saw TJ Fayani get rested last weekend. He took his opportunities and grabbed it with both hands, didn't he? So hopefully he'll get a run in the jersey now to go with it. Ruru gets a lot of bad press, but I remember at -10 cup level when we were up in Northland, how there was much of the comment was like, as soon as Ruru went off the pitch, it all just got so much easier. One of the things that Ruru does a lot of is he just annoys and scraps with the opposition scrum half all the time, making their life a real misery. And so perhaps you don't get the on your own ball, but on their ball, they also don't get an easy time as well. So it's he's perhaps not an attacking scrum half, which I guess is sounds a bit strange talking about a defensive scrum half, but yeah, that's what he kind of is. But we'll see. Knock deserves a shot now, though. You're right.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to say there's also three young guys in that pack with very limited super experience. I spoke about Eklund, but also Jacob Pearce coming in for 80 years, I think maybe his second game. And, he's just starting to strike up a bit of a combination with Tuipulotu and also Hoskins Satutu. I know he had a couple of good carries in the game, but I just probably want to see a little bit more work rate out of him.
Out of Hoskins Satutu?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say he had a very good. He's getting lots of plaudits. Obviously, he's keeping Kiriwani out of that jersey at the moment, and is doing very well in his first season. Now, unfortunately, I have not seen the game or the highlights for the last game, which was the Bulls versus the Jaguares. It finished 24-39, and I've just noticed that the Jaguares scored 6 tries in this one. Wow! And for a game that most of the stats look pretty even. It just looks like the Bulls' set piece fell apart, especially their line out, and they just didn't bother to tackle.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I've just seen the highlights of this game, but some of the tries they scored, the ball movement is very, very good, and they do latch on. They do latch on opportunities. Couple of yellow cards in this game to Kutsia from the Bulls, and Joan Diaz Bonilla also picked up a yellow card. But yeah, no question. Even with the yellow card, they still put on a try, and at 24-14. Listen, the the Bulls came back to 24-21 when Hendrick scored on the 42nd minute, couple of minutes after halftime. But boy, I think that's really about as close as it's got. And you've also got to wonder about the mindset of the Bulls as well. 31-21 down, 55th minute, Stein just decides to have a shot at goal, where I thought, man, you're not going to beat this Hagawari's team's kicking penalties. You need tries, but that might have been a byproduct of their line out not working, Paul.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, it looks like they lost it just before. I mean, they whilst they came back in, they were leading 14-10 after 36 minutes. 37 minutes and 40 minutes they led in 2 tries before half time. So they go from in the last 4 minutes they go from 14-10 to suddenly 14-24. I mean, that conceding 2 tries just before half time is an absolute killer. We've also got 3 conversions. So, I mean, the Hagawari's left 6 points out there. They could have been on 45. They could have been further ahead. But I guess part of the thinking, if you're 10 points behind, you've got to score twice. Do you take the penalty and then go back down and score again? And there was plenty of time left on the clock at 55 minutes. You've still got another 25 minutes to go. Just settle the nerves, get the points, and keep going, I guess. But when you're a man up, actually they were a man down at that point. So I can understand. Yeah, take the 3 points. You're a man down. It sucks up the clock. You've got some points. I get why they would do that, but you're right. The Bulls need to show more if they're going to beat teams like the Hagawari's.
I'll tell you what. I think the interesting game is the game coming up this weekend, where the Hagawari's head to Durban to play the Sharks, who I believe now have about three or four home games in a row. So that's going to be I think that's going to be much more of a challenge for them.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Sharks. Obviously they'll have just got back from their New Zealand and Australasia tour. I mean, they'll be thinking, geez, when is our bye week? And they've got 3 home games before they have a bye. So they've been on tour. Not the nicest, not the kindest of scheduling for the for the Sharks there, to go on tour, come back, have 3 more games before a bye. But you're right, that is going to be a key clash, because these 2 teams are really now finding it out with the Stormers. So the South Africa Conference, Stormers on 17, the Sharks on 16, the Hagawari's on 15, the Lions on 5, and the Bulls on 1. So we can discount the Lions and the Bulls, let's be honest, straight away. Their season is already over. But those top 3, 17, 16 and 15 points, that is very, very tight. Not quite as tight as the New Zealand Conference has now ended up being, which is the Crusaders on 14 points, the Hurricanes on 13, the Chiefs on 13, and the Blues on 13, with the Highlanders on 5. Now, the Blues have played an extra game, and all those teams than the other 3. But hey, to be in that conversation, the Blues must be really happy after so many seasons that have been so many tough seasons.
And listen, a few. It's great to see the Blues finally part of a conversation where A, they are in the top 8, B, they're not the poorest of the New Zealand sides at the moment, at this minute, unfortunately for the Highlanders. But I think the other talking point is, man, isn't it great to be seeing some upsets, some genuine upsets? Obviously, the Blues knocking over the Stormers. We saw the Brumbies knock over the Chiefs the other week, and of course the Rebels knocking over the Highlanders. Now, a lot of people would say, well, hang on, the Highlanders aren't travelling that well, but I can't recall the last time that the Rebels, or even maybe the Highlanders, have been beaten by an Australian side in Dunedin, Paul. That's probably been a while. And
I was about to give you the last time the Rebels won a game in New Zealand for you, because I think it was the opening game about 4 years or 5 years ago against the Crusaders, which is their first ever overseas win.
Wow.
I think that was probably the
Well,
last time.
well, if you're gonna win one, that's a good one to win.
That
I think
was, yes.
The Blues would take that.
Absolutely. But so yeah, and then obviously the Australia Conference, Brumbies on 13, the Rebels on 8, the Reds on 7, Waratahs on 5, and the Sunwolves on 4. Yeah, it's hard to say. Do we already know what the 8 teams that are going to make the finals? Then is it? I mean, are we that? Is it already basically that the Stormers, Crusaders, Brumbies, Sharks, Jaguares, Hurricanes, Chiefs, and Blues will be the top 8, and then basically Rebels, Reds, Lions, Tars, Landers, Sunwolves, and Bulls can all pretty much forget it already.
That's a division. That's Division Two of the
That's Division
Super
Two.
Rugby pool.
It does look like, yeah, you got your top 8 and you got your bottom 7, and there's a pretty big gap between there's a 5-point gap at the moment between them. But yeah, it is looking like a top 8 and a bottom 7 now. We'll see whether that's just the way that the fixtures have fallen that have made it finish that way. But I think at the moment that's how it's looking. It's not just looking at
Well,
the points,
I
but
think
also just how the teams are playing.
I think we can pretty much, like you say, I think we can pretty much write off the Sunwolves and the Bulls. I think the rest of those teams are probably going to be more nuisance value than anything else. But already now there's a definite trend starting to show, and I think anybody who's probably playing the Sunwolves can. I'm still scratching my head how the Waratahs lost to the Sunwolves, but hey,
Rebels.
That's by the by.
No, not the Waratahs, the Rebels.
The Rebels, based on what they saw. Although I'm saying that the Rebels have showed a bit of an improvement, Paul. So hard to know really. It really depends how they draw, how the cards are falling on their draw.
Yeah, and maybe the Rebels, because they have got that Heinz win. Maybe there's something they can do for that. Below the Rebels, though, all the other teams have only got 1 win, or the Bulls have got 0.
Yeah.
The
Rebels are going to say, beg your pardon, Paul, coming up this weekend. They've actually got the Lions. So, listen, if they play anything like they did last weekend, they really should win that game. And then I look at the following week. Then they've got a bye round 8. I look at where the Rebels are.
Sunwolves.
Yeah. Sunwolves again, are they? Have they?
Yep. So yes, the Rebels. We've got the Lions and Sunwolves the next 2 games up, so they've got a good chance of winning those 2. They then go on tour to face the Stormers and Jaguares. So 2 tough games on tour before coming back and playing the Reds, the Crusaders at home, Blues at home, away to the Waratahs and the Brumbies at home, the Chiefs away, and the Reds away. Reds at home. So yeah, it's that's a tough tour to South Africa. And South America. If they get something out of that, then perhaps they're in with a shout. Cool. Well, there you go, folks. Join me tomorrow evening when Arthur and I will be going through all the sort of non-playing aspects of rugby. Tomorrow morning, I'm having a chat with Bernard Jackman, who is the ex-Irish international, ex-head coach of Grenoble and also the Dragons. We're going to be talking about Irish club rugby, because at the moment there's a lot of stuff kicking off or going off around that next level under professional rugby. So you've got the RFU cutting funding to the championship. You've got New Zealand having a big review and talking to the provinces about how they're going to potentially restructure that area. You've Australia are talking about restructuring the NRC, etc. So there's a lot of stuff going on at that level, just beneath professional rugby at the moment. So I expect a few videos about that kind of stuff from me under For Your Ears Only and behind the scenes. So go check those out over at DrivingMaul.com, where where you can get access to those if you become a supporter of the channel. Thank you very much for for joining this evening, Stephen.
No. Well, I'll head off and do my own restructure, mate. So once again, as previously said, privilege and pleasure as always to be on the show. And let's hope for some more great results this weekend, some more competitive games, and if there's the upset or 2, even better.
Yeah, because obviously the Crusaders, the Chiefs, and the Brumbies had a weekend off. They'll all be back in action next weekend. So do enjoy that. And actually, first off, we do tend to have a go at the administrators on the whole. But I've got to say, hat tip to the Sanzar for making the Sunwolves Brumbies game actually happen. Is it Sunwolves Brumbies or Sunwolves Waratahs? Anyway, whichever game it is. If you look over to Europe, where the Six Nations and the Pro 14 are postponing and cancelling, or which will be cancelling games, at least Sanzar are making the games happen. So well done Sanzar on that side of things. The Crusaders will be playing in wherever the Reds are playing against Sunwolves the following weekend. So look, well done Sanzar for that, and enjoy whatever rugby you watch this weekend, folks.